These are the men and women of Beaver Valley, the bravest of the brave. They fought fearlessly for their country, their city, their community, and for the ideals we share as Americans. They served proudly in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Here now are their stories, their own experiences in their own words, the words of the heroes of Beaver Valley. The Continental Congress officially adopted Thomas Jefferson's final draft of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, severing the United States' ties with Great Britain. Traditions of bonfires and fireworks spread from Philadelphia to the rest of the country after the document's first anniversary. Officially established as a holiday by Congress in 1870, Independence Day has remained an American tradition of celebrating our freedom. 165 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the Japanese attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor in 1941. In the same spirit of the Founding Fathers, one local man enlisted into the Marines to defend his nation and our freedom. Born and raised in Midland, Ed Cilli graduated high school in 1939. 2 years later, the football game he was listening to was interrupted when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor.
1941, a date which will live in infamy.
In 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, I didn't know where the hell Pearl Harbor was, and neither did a lot of other people, but that brought the nation together like I've never seen before. I mean, patriotically. Everybody worked. The ladies worked in the steel mills. Everything was going full blast. Just something unique.
In April 1942, 4 months after the attack, Cilli went to Pittsburgh to enlist in the armed forces.
And I seen this guy in this beautiful uniform. I said, that's what I want. I want to be a Marine.
Cilli went to boot camp at Parris Island and described it as hell. It wasn't until after he experienced combat that he realized the importance of his training.
And then after you went into combat, you see what they were trying to help you with, because they're changing you from a civilian to kill somebody. And you have to really evaluate your thinking and the way you live and everything else.
After attending radio school in Quantico, Virginia, Cilli was sent to the South Pacific to join up with the 1st Marine Division at Guadalcanal.
I was a radio man for the weapons company, anti-tank outfit. That had 37mm anti-tank guns.
He then went with his division to invade Cape Gloucester, New Britain in 1943.
We met some opposition when we landed and had to fight our way ashore. We only took the lower part of the island. The north part was still controlled by the Japanese, but it was so much jungle, you know, that you couldn't really fight a battle in that place. It was really a mess.
The 1st Marine Division's next stop was Pavuvu for recuperation before their next invasion, but Pavuvu posed its own challenges.
It was no place to rehab a fighting division. A while there, we were mostly fixing the place up so it would be livable. Then we started to train for our next invasion, which was Peleliu. And we landed on Peleliu against fierce opposition. September 15th, 1944. We landed and couldn't move off the beach for a while. There was a couple of machine gun nests that was holding us up. Finally, we got rid of those two and started to move inland. Our objective was the airport. We started to move towards the airport.
While fighting to move inland, Cilli and 4 other men were injured when a mortar shell landed in the middle of them.
So I remember going up in the air, spinning around, lying flat on the ground, hitting the ground. When I got up, I'm patting myself to see what happened. There was fragments, shell fragments in my leg. But my two buddies were worse off than I was, so I could help them. Meantime, called for a corpsman.
The corpsman wanted to tag Cilli, meaning Cilli would be able to leave the island, but he also wouldn't return to the same outfit after he was treated. Cilli decided to stay with his division, his friends. During the invasion, the truck that the radio equipment was in blew up. So Cilli became a runner during the fight for the airport.
We got near the airport. The Japs got their tanks out, and they came across that airfield like crazy people. You know, the tanks weren't in a line like you'd see in a movie. They were going helter-skelter all around, but fortunately the armor of a Japanese tank was thin. It wasn't thick, and the 37mm guns which we had just blasted them up, stopped that counterattack. And that night the Japanese didn't counterattack.
The Marines would take the airport and complete their mission on Peleliu. After a brief rest on Pavuvu, they would move on to their next invasion, Okinawa.
We're all geared up now. We're going to invade Okinawa. We take off and we go. And we're all a little nervous because this is our fourth invasion. I said, man, I made it through 3 of them. I don't know. I hope I get through this one. We expected fierce opposition on the beach. We landed and we thought we were walking into a trap. No opposition. First Division just went across the island. It was supposed to take us like 3 weeks. It took us 2 days. And we were sitting there, what the hell's going on, you know?
The Japanese had moved their forces to the southern end of the island, where they waited for the Marines in reinforced caves and tunnels.
A month later, when we went south on the front lines with the 6th Marine Division and 3 Army divisions, that's where we met all the opposition. That's when things began to get hot. And it rained, and it rained. Those foxholes became muddy, sloppy. You went to heat up your rations. The rain would get in there so fast it'd make it, if you started out with pudding, you end up with soup.
Cilli says that there were times when he and his fellow soldiers were scared.
Anybody to tell you they weren't, not telling the truth. When you see your buddies being blown up and people lying dead all over the place, it wasn't nice at all.
The United States captured Okinawa in July 1945.
Finally, Sergeant come in our tent, my buddy and I, and he says, get going. He says, there's a ship going back to the States. He didn't have to tell us twice. I left all the souvenirs I had, and my buddy and I we ran down to get the hell off that island because we've been over there 3 years.
Cilli might have gotten off the island, but his trip home was not easy.
A monsoon, the bow of the ship would go up 20 feet and then slam down. Up and down. My buddy says, geez, we've been through 4 campaigns, we're going to die on the ocean. Because, you know, that was a hell of a force the way it hit. But we made it back to the States, and I knelt down and kissed the ground. Finally made it home.